Bryce Canyon National Park is a visual masterpiece, with wide open views, beautiful sandstone spires, and legendary trails. But this incredible scenery also attracts big crowds. You'll have to time your trip right to avoid the masses and get the most out of your stay. So in this episode, I'm going to give you an in-depth introduction to Bryce Canyon National Park. I'll let you know the best time to visit, I'll give you a quick summary of places to stay, I'll give you some basic information about the park, and I'll walk you through all 4 sections of Bryce Canyon National Park. Bryce Canyon National Park sits an hour and a half north of Zion, and 4 hours south of Salt Lake City. It's not a big park, it's a little under 36,000 acres, which makes it the smallest national park in Utah. However, this small park packs a big punch, with some of Utah's best scenery. Bryce is known for its collection of beautiful sandstone hoodoos, but I'll get back to that. The park was named after Ebenezer Bryce. He was an early pioneer that homesteaded in the area. When he was asked about Bryce Canyon, he said it was a hell of a place to lose a cow. Luckily for us, Bryce Canyon is a little easier to navigate these days. The park has one entrance and one road that provides access to almost every stop in the park. This is nice in a lot of ways, but it can also create a bottleneck point at the entrance, so it tends to get backed up during peak hours. Try to get to the park early to avoid a line. Each season offers something different at Bryce. Some people like to visit during the winter, and Bryce is gorgeous with a thin layer of snow, but too much snow will leave the park looking a little bland. Trust me, we found out the hard way. You'll have to find a healthy balance. Also, winter weather invites several closures. After a good snow, the roads will close until they get plowed. Fairyland Road doesn't get plowed at all, so it's essentially closed for the winter. But the most notable closure is the Wall Street side of Navajo Loop. This is a big destination, but if you visit in the winter, don't plan on seeing it. Although one good thing about visiting in the winter is that the crowds will be much smaller. Spring in Bryce can still be a little chilly. Our last visit was in May and we saw snow. That isn't the norm, but it's possible. Spring can also be a little windy, but crowds aren't at their peak. But Wall Street is normally closed until Memorial Day, so you'll still have to deal with that closure. As always, summer is the busiest season. Kids are out of school and the weather is mostly good. Trailheads and overlooks fill up quickly during the summer, and the crowds are consistently large. But summertime doesn't see a lot of closures, although you might have to deal with a thunderstorm or two popping up in the afternoon. Like most national parks, fall is the best time to visit. The crowds are smaller because kids are back in school. The weather is nice enough, the roads are open, and Wall Street is open too. There aren't a lot of downsides to visiting in the fall. Once you figure out when you want to visit, you'll have to find a place to stay. So I'll give you a quick rundown with a few options. Remember to plan ahead and book your lodging in advance. Some of these options will fill up months ahead of time. Bryce Canyon City sits along the northern boundary of the park. This little town has a few restaurants and lodges. The town is literally on the doorstep of Bryce, so it's convenient for a lot of reasons. Ruby's Inn is the most notable place to stay. It has a campground, RV park, and more than 100 rooms. Just down the road to the east is the little town of Tropic. Tropic has a few restaurants, cabins, and Bryce Valley Ranch RV park. Plus, we felt like Tropic gave us a good separation from the crowds around Bryce. The only drawback for Tropic is that it's 15 minutes from the entrance of the park, so you will have to drive a little further. To the west of Bryce, you can find Red Canyon. This area is part of Dixie National Forest. Red Canyon has a few small hikes and a visitor center, but it also has a campground. The Red Canyon campground has 37 campsites, with drinking water, showers, garbage disposal, and a dump station. But this campground is only open seasonally from late April through September, and these are first come, first served sites, which is always fun. Bryce Canyon is also surrounded by National Forest and BLM land, so there are several options for dispersed camping, but you're not allowed to camp inside the park unless you have an established campsite. That means no car camping in random pullouts and parking lots. Of course, if you want to stay close to Bryce, you can just stay inside the park. Bryce has 2 campgrounds and a rustic lodge. The lodge is open from April to November, and rooms range from $250 a night to $450 a night. The lodge has a gift shop and a restaurant, and the restaurant was pretty good. Plus, the lodge is just a quick walk away from Sunset Point and Sunrise Point, which means you won't have to fight for a parking spot if you want to see those areas. Once you get lodging in order, you're set, but there are still a few things you need to know before you head to the park. First, in the big scheme of things, Bryce is a relatively remote park. There are a couple grocery stores and a few restaurants around the park, but there are no big chain grocery stores or restaurants, which means things will be a little more expensive. Our favorite restaurant was Bryce Canyon Pines, and you can get some good ice cream at Old Brycetown. But meals can add up quickly, so stock up on groceries and pack a cooler before you arrive to save yourself some money. Fuel is a little pricey too, so fill up your gas tank on the way. Bryce Canyon National Park is beautiful, but what if I told you it was all built on a lie? Bryce Canyon isn't even a canyon. Canyons are carved by a single river like the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River at the bottom. But the features in Bryce were created through wind, snow, and rain. So geologically speaking, Bryce Canyon is actually an amphitheater. People come from around the world to see the Bryce Amphitheater and its collection of sandstone rock spires known as hoodoos. The park rests between 8,000 and 9,100 feet in elevation. This means the park is constantly prone to freezing temperatures. Moisture finds its way into cracks in the rocks, the water freezes and melts, so it constantly contracts and expands. This process is known as frost wedging. This slowly chips away at the rocks. Over time it creates arches, then the process continues until the arch falls, leaving hoodoos. Bryce Canyon National Park has the largest collection of naturally formed hoodoos in the world, and they make some beautiful scenery. Of course, these hoodoos invite a lot of attention. Each year, more than 2 million people visit Bryce, and all of these people have to park somewhere. Unfortunately, the parking situation isn't great. Parking lots fill up quickly, plus some lots are open to tour buses. The park is much more enjoyable when you don't have to fight for a parking spot, so get to the park early and avoid the hassle. If you don't want to deal with parking, you can use the Bryce Canyon shuttle system. It's not mandatory and it only runs from April to October. Shuttles leave from Bryce Canyon City, then proceed through the Bryce Amphitheater section of the park. Shuttles don't go past Bryce Point, so if you want to enjoy the Southern Scenic Drive, you'll need to have your own vehicle. The same goes for Fairyland Loop. Personally, I didn't see a need to ride the shuttles, but I'd always get to the park early, so parking in crowds were never a major issue. That being said, I did ride the shuttles just to experience them, and they were much more enjoyable to ride than the shuttles in Grand Canyon National Park and Zion National Park, so don't use those shuttles as a comparison for the Bryce shuttle. Overlooks and hiking are the most common ways to enjoy Bryce, but trail rides offer a fun way to see the park. These rides will actually go down into the amphitheater and travel around Peekaboo Loop. This is a great way to take in the views, plus it's pretty relaxing. If you're looking to do a trail ride in Bryce, I made a full walkthrough that will give you details about tours and tell you how to prepare. I'll link that video at the end of this episode. Unfortunately, if you want to bring your pet to Bryce, your activities will be very limited. Pets are only allowed on paved surfaces like roads, parking lots, and paved paths along the rim. This means they're not allowed on trails like Navajo Loop, the Queen's Garden, and Peekaboo Loop. When it comes to wildlife, Bryce Canyon has a limited supply. If you visit Zion, you'll have a chance to see bighorn sheep and California condors, but Bryce won't offer those same opportunities. When you're on trail in Bryce, you might see deer, critters, and pronghorn, but the easiest place to spot wildlife is right outside the visitor center. Just south of the visitor center, there's a field with Utah prairie dog colonies. They're normally active throughout the day, and if you give it enough time, you'll see prairie dogs standing up on their hind legs watching over their colony. This is a fun stop and it's pretty easy to access. Just remember to keep your distance, because these prairie dogs are known to carry the plague. If you're getting value from this video, give it a like and leave a comment. It's a small thing you can do to help the channel grow. And if you want to support the channel a little more, you can check out our Bryce Canyon travel guide. This guide has trail summaries, reservation details, itineraries, and tons of practical tips to make your trip easier. Our Bryce Canyon travel guide is available at the link in the description, along with all of our Southern Utah guides. Bryce Canyon can be divided into 4 sections. These aren't official districts, but this will help you understand the layout of the park. First is the Mossy Cave Trail. This section feels completely disconnected from the rest of the park. In order to access the Mossy Cave Trail, you'll have to leave the park and drive east on Highway 12 for 3 miles. Then the trailhead will be on the west side of the road. Since this trailhead is right off the main road, it's very convenient for people that are passing through the area. This means it can get overrun quickly during peak hours. So as always, if you get there early, you will save yourself a headache. The Mossy Cave Trail is a quick 1 mile out and back hike that'll take you to 3 landmarks. Turret Arch rests on a ridge to the north. The Mossy Cave is at the end of a small spur trail, and Tropic Ditch Falls sits on the north end of the trail. This is the only non-seasonal waterfall in Bryce Canyon National Park. The second section of Bryce also sits outside the main entrance. Fairyland is accessed on a small spur road just past the Bryce Canyon sign. This road doesn't get plowed in the winter, and it doesn't get shuttle service, so plan accordingly if you want to see it. Fairyland Point is an easily accessible overlook that sits above the Fairyland Loop. The Fairyland Loop is an 8-mile hike that ventures down into Fairyland Canyon. This trail has gorgeous scenery like Tower Bridge and the Palace of the Fairy Queen. Fairyland lights up during golden hour. Plus it gets much less traffic than other trails in the park. So we really enjoyed this hike. While it's a great trail, you will have to remember that it's a rough climb back to the rim. This hike has about 1,600 feet of elevation gain, but I'd say it's worth it. The third section of the park is Bryce's Southern Scenic Drive. This stretch of road starts at Bryce Point Road and reaches 15 miles all the way to Rainbow Point. The Scenic Drive also provides access to 9 different overlooks along the way. The best overlooks on the drive are Agua Canyon and Natural Bridge. There are also a couple small trails along the way. The road culminates at Rainbow Point and Yavimpa Point. These are 2 overlooks that are tied as the highest points in the park, at an elevation of 9,115 feet. Rainbow Point has restrooms and a picnic area, plus it provides access to Bristlecone Loop. This is a short trail that walks through the forest, with some beautiful views of the surrounding landscape. If you're headed to Rainbow Point, remember to prepare properly. Weather can change quickly at this altitude, so pack an extra layer just in case. Also, you need to pack plenty of water, because there's no water access on the Southern Scenic Drive. If you venture down the Southern Scenic Drive during peak hours, it will probably be a practice in patience. Parking and traffic can get a little slow on this road with all the people coming and going from overlooks, but I'd say that's still worthwhile. Once you pass through the main gate, you will enter the Bryce Amphitheater section of the park. Naturally, this section revolves around the Bryce Amphitheater, and it extends 3 miles from the park entrance to Bryce Point. This section is where most of the fun happens. This area is home to the visitor center, campgrounds, the camp store, and the lodge. You can rent bikes, you can hike with rangers, and you can learn about the park's history in the education center. There are plenty of things to keep you busy in this part of the park. Aside from all of that, this part of the park is home to the best trails and overlooks. Sunrise Point and Bryce Point are 2 of the most popular overlooks in the park. Both are great for sunrise or sunset. Just be ready for a crowd, even if it's early in the morning. Inspiration Point and Sunset Point are also great options. When it comes to trails, you can take a nice walk along the rim to enjoy views of the hoodoos, but in my opinion, the best way to enjoy the hoodoos is to hike alongside them, and Navajo Loop provides that opportunity. This trail is legendary, and it's a bucket list stop for most hikers. Navajo Loop curls through switchbacks while it passes iconic hoodoos, and it connects to the Queen's Garden and Peekaboo Loop, which are 2 more incredible trails. If you're looking to hike Navajo Loop, I made a full walkthrough, and you can watch it right here.